Close your eyes for a moment and picture a deep, ancient forest. It's a massive ecosystem, teeming with life, standing undisturbed for centuries. Now imagine that entire world just vanishing. This process, the systematic clearing of trees to make room for farms, factories, or expanding cities, is what we define as deforestation. While humans have always cleared land to survive, the 19th century saw this activity accelerate into something else entirely. Global empires began actively converting whole continents into massive industrial resource hubs. Official records from that era recorded this clearing as an improvement rather than a loss. Colonial administrators looked at millions of square miles of thriving natural habitat and saw a landscape that needed to be fixed before it could be useful. Colonial administrators categorized natural forests as unproductive, wasted land. If it wasn't growing crops, it wasn't contributing. We see this in North America, in John Dawson's painting. Settlers viewed plains used by Native Americans as wasted potential, gaining value only once farmed. Practical pressures in Europe reinforced these ideas. Rapidly growing populations created a massive, urgent demand for food crops like wheat and rice. The survival of distant cities depended on these yields. To meet that demand, settlers and peasants physically pushed back the tree lines. They cleared millions of hectares, using the axe to break new, farmable ground wherever they could. Colonial improvement focused heavily on economic output. The goal was to take a complex, wild ecosystem and convert it into a standardized asset that performed reliably for the treasury. Beyond the need for food, the colonial state required a stable tax base to function. Standing forests presented a fiscal problem. They didn't generate annual revenue for the government. This balance sheet illustrates the basic logic used by colonial officials. On one side, natural forests offered no measurable income for the state, but on the other, every cleared and cultivated acre became a permanent, taxable unit of government wealth. At the same time, the Industrial Revolution was gaining momentum. Factories across Europe had a nearly bottomless hunger for raw materials like jute, cotton, and sugar to feed their production lines. To secure these supplies, colonial governments took control of vast forest tracts. They leased this land to European planters at nominal rates, who cleared the native trees and replaced them with massive single-crop plantations designed for export. These cleared landscapes were marketed directly to consumers in the West. Deforestation was effectively integrated into daily life through global commodities, like the tea advertised in this vintage poster. The forest's natural diversity was dismantled to make way for this global supply chain, converting complex biological systems into taxable industrial products. This map tracks how these policies of agricultural expansion and forest clearing occurred simultaneously across colonies in Africa, Asia, and South America. In each of these territories, the immediate priorities of industrial production and state profit took precedence over any concerns for environmental sustainability. Between 1700 and 1995, roughly 13.9 million square kilometers of forest were cleared worldwide. This scale of loss is the physical result of those 19th century economic choices. Our modern environmental challenges are deeply connected to this history. The idea that nature is a blank canvas that only becomes valuable once it is put to work. This logic also applied to wildlife. In this photograph, a colonial official poses with a row of dead tigers. Governments paid rewards to hunters for killing large animals like tigers and leopards, viewing them as obstacles to the success of their new agricultural lands. There was a human cost as well. Indigenous communities who had managed these forests for generations suddenly found their homes reclassified as state property. Traditional ways of life were restricted as the land was reorganized for state profit. These communities had lived within the forest landscape for centuries. When colonial laws criminalized their access to forest resources to push them into plantation labor, many fought back, resisting the policies that defined their traditional culture as a waste of space. Looking at the bare land today, we can see the full weight of those historical balance sheets and the world that was cleared away to make the numbers work.